welcome all, and all are welcome. This is part 2 of my setup for my 2025 part 2 reading journal. If you haven't seen part 1, this is just the second half of the year 2025, the setup spreads for my reading journal for that. I am aware that this is going up very, very late. In fact, a lot of you are probably setting up your 2026 reading journal if you have not done so already. But hopefully this can give you some inspiration for future journal spreads, or just have this on in the background while you do your own journaling. I love setting up journal spreads, so I found this a lot of fun to do. But basically, I just have been reading way more than I was expecting to when I originally set up my 2025 reading journal setup. So I ended up needing a new notebook for the 6 months at the end of the year. So the spread we're working on right now is called This Book Made Me. And basically, I put a list of reactions and emotions and then a little box next to it so that I could write down which book was the book that elicited that reaction or emotion. So for instance, I have down cry, laugh out loud, feel embarrassed, blush, kick my feet, worry, gasp, annoyed, giggle girlishly, cackle evilly, smirk, say awe, feel disbelief, sigh romantically, mad or irritated, disappointed, fan myself, and smile happily. I have so far used a black Sharpie felt tip pen in Fine. That is my go-to pen. I love using that one. And then a Tombow dual brush pen to color in the boxes on the left side of each of the rectangles. I'm using the Creepy Moon Shop stickers for all of the decoration. And then at the very top, we'll be making this header. The header I made using stickers from, it's Reim Clouds from an Etsy shop. I really like this like gothic lettering stickers. I use them all the time. They're really good. Here on the right page now, I'm moving over to make a graph for the books I read this year. So basically, I make a spot for each month on the horizontal axis, and on the vertical axis, I just have numbers up to 20. And then I will mark every month how many books I read, and then I can connect it and kind of see a charted graph. I'm just using stickers by Izobova store on Etsy, month header stickers. I love these. That's an amazing store, and it's so sad she's actually no longer going to be open starting at the end of 2025, and it's breaking my heart. I used my Kuretake Zig Coconut Iro brush pen to letter books read this year, and then I'm using a bunch of Paperaicashop stickers at the bottom for a bit of decoration. Sometimes I like to be finicky with the placement. So we're just getting that just right, and then we're flipping over to the next page. This will be my A to Z reading challenge. This is the first time I am putting an A to Z reading challenge in my journal, and I am going in, like, I know that I'm not going to read every letter. Like, the J and the Z and the Q, they're always, like, those are classically difficult ones to do. But I'm just more out of curiosity want to see how many books I will end up reading with different letters. So I'm just going in, starting off my Tombow dual brush pen to kind of make a mark where each letter will go. It also gives it just like a little bit of like color and depth, so it's not just black and white stickers. So we're just making like a little scribbly circle. These are very imperfect and irregular. That's totally good. That's what we're going for. And then I'm using these stickers from the Aastrae, which is another Etsy shop. I get most of my stickers on Etsy. And these are like another like kind of gothic letter sticker. And I am just labeling each of the dots with their individual letters. Now I'm going in with my Sharpie pen again, and I am doing a little banner shape instead of the regular rectangle that I was doing before. I made it like a little banner at the back, just to kind of, I don't know, give it a little detail, mix it up a little bit. But I'm just doing those. I've definitely sped up this footage. You do not need to watch me spend hours doing this. And then I have some Stickii Club stickers A to Z, and then I write just in my regular handwriting with the blunt tip of a Tombow dual brush pen in black. I just write the words reading challenge underneath. I also go in with some stickers. I have this book of stickers from my Grabie subscription box. I no longer subscribe, but I was for a little while. I like their box. And they had like a book of paper stickers, but they were different like castles and palaces and stuff. And that's totally my kind of thing. So I use my paper cutter to cut one end and tear the other end. And then I use my corner rounding tool and tear a little more, but we get it just right. And so I can stick it down on my page and have another castle here. I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but my journal setup, I'm kind of going for like old castles and very like cobblestones and old medieval candlesticks and things like that. After I put down my Leela journal stickers, I'm finishing up with one last sticker, and we're going over to my next spread. This is a new way to track my romance tropes that I'm trying out here. Basically, I am doing a similar layout to the genres and the This Book Made Me, and to my A to Z challenge. And I am just making a little rectangle, and at the left side of each rectangle, I'll put a box, and inside that box, I will put the prompt. So I really did everything I could to come up with just every romance trope I could possibly think of. I have quite the list. The ones I put down are for mutual pining, morally gray, billionaire, neighbor, only one bed, royalty, their fated mates, he falls first, single parent, dark romantasy, fake dating, small town, enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers, friends to lovers, age gap, second chance, sports, love at first sight, holiday or seasonal, love triangle, race to the airport, miscommunication, forced proximity, slow burn, grumpy sunshine, forbidden love, pregnancy, sibling's best friend sibling, marriage of convenience, touch her and die, snowed in, secret identity, who did this to you, fake relationship, coworkers / boss, amnesia, dragon, hurt / comfort, and mafia. I actually do expect to be able to fill all of these out. I am a romantasy girl. That's just what I like to read. And at the time of recording this, it is like it's almost halfway through December, and I have 3 of them that I haven't filled out. These are all ones that I have actually, like, I've read the trope. I've just written the book down with that trope for a different trope, mostly, is what it is that I have here. So I use a Tombow dual brush pen to color in those little squares on the side, and then I'm going in with my Sakura Pigma Micron black pen in 01 to write down the name of each trope, because I wanted to write just a little bit smaller so it could fit in the box better, and I find that the Pigma Micron works better for the smaller writing than my usual Sharpie pen does. It would have worked fine, but I just prefer this. At the time of making this setup, I did leave a couple boxes empty, just in case I thought of more tropes, and so those last 6 on the far right, I just left empty, and I filled them in like as I came up with more tropes that I wanted to include, which is something I'm kind of glad I did, and I'm definitely going to be including in future journals as well, as like room for growth. I think that all of my journal spreads need to make sure to contain room for growth, because I'm always going to think of something later that I should have included, and I've learned at this point I just need to allow for that. I'm sticking down another one of those stickers that I got from my Grabie subscription box with the castles and stuff on them. Those are really handy for this setup. And then I'm just using some letter stamps and an ink pad to put romance tropes as the header, but it's just kind of in the bottom right corner. I'm putting down a sticker from Creeping Moon Shop sticker sheet, and then finally going in with just a thin strip of washi tape on the top. This washi tape is from Zaka Lover, again on Etsy. So this is how that spread turned out. Now we are going over and making 2 single page spreads. So on the left, I am putting down a couple of papers from my Notebook Therapy junk journal paper set. It was a notebook full of different kinds of paper. And then I am using a gray Tombow dual brush pen to write cute nicknames. On the opposite page, I'm just using the Tombow dual brush pen to write directly on the page, and I put obsessed and then made an outline with my Sharpie pen just to kind of give it a bit of a frame. I'm putting down 2 Mushie Works stickers here, and I actually go back later after I do some spreads and I add another sticker to this one as well. But that's where we're leaving it for now, and now we're starting in on my Jessie Corin 2025 Year of Goober Reading Challenge spread. I am doing the same layout that I did for the beginning of 2025, and I am, spoilers, doing the same layout for the 2026 reading journal spread as well. 2025 has been the first year that I have taken part in the Jackie Corin Year of Goober Reading Challenge. Really enjoyed that. That has been a lot of fun. So I have managed to get at least one every month so far. Like I said, I'm recording this in December, so I'll try and make sure I get one here. But I am just going in for now and using my Tombow black dual brush pen, the blunt tip side, to make my lines for this kind of chart. On the far left, I'm going to put down the month that that section applies to. In the section after that, I will put the flower. Each month has 2 flower options, so I left 2 lines for each section. After that will be the meaning that corresponds to each flower, the prompt that corresponds to each meaning, and finally on the right page, the whole section there is just for the book that I read that matched that prompt. I am going back in with more Izobova on Etsy. Her month sticker headers were really good. And then I'm using my Sakura Pigma Micron black pen. I think this is in the 01 size. And I am just filling out all of this information. There's a lot of information here. She has like a lot of PDFs and downloadables and things like that. But I just wanted to just write it all out in this format because I thought this format worked really well for me. So I am going ahead and writing all this out, and I'll be honest with you, my hand was cramping like crazy here. By like halfway through, I was like, oh, this is a lot to write. So I have edited out a couple of pauses where I like stop and take a break and then come back to it, because this is more writing, just straight out writing without anything else than I usually do in like most daily circumstances. I will also be backfilling this. So for January to June, it was in the previous journal. I will fill in the books that I read for each of those prompts as well. And then down at the bottom, I'm using my gray Tombow dual brush pen to write my bouquet. Because if I, for instance, use January, if I used carnation, which means deep love, to read a book by my favorite author, then I would put a carnation down at the bottom. So it's really cool to see how the flowers fill out throughout the year, and like you have a full bouquet at the end. Finally going in with that same gray dual brush pen and just writing the header at the top. I didn't have any special name for the header, so I literally just wrote out, you know, what the challenge was. And we're finishing up with a sticker from my Stickii Club subscription box. I get the vintage pack every month, and I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you which month this was from or what sticker sheet it was from, but I really liked these styles. Now we're going into my book bracket. This one I did make a couple mistakes on. So I have an HP Sprocket 200 printer, which means that I can print the covers. So for the first time when I made this spread, I made it so that I could put the covers down for my favorite book of each month. Unfortunately, the boxes that I made for the covers were too small. My HP Sprocket and the layout and format that I usually use for printing my book covers, the book covers end up too large by just a little bit. So I've actually had to go in with scissors and like trim down my book covers every month, which has been a little bit strange. But I mean, I can work with that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the end of the world here. So I outline everything with my Sharpie pen, and then I'm going in with a brown Tombow dual brush pen to show the flow of the chart, and then back in with those Izobova monthly header stickers. I told you, these are handy. They're so small that I don't use them a lot in my bullet journaling, but they've been really nice for these setups. So I go in with those stickers to label each month, and then the large rectangle where I put my book of the year, I actually made it the size of just one page of my HP Sprocket printer paper, so I can just print out a full page thing of my favorite book. I'm just putting down a couple of stickers that I really like, some from Paperaicashop, and then marking it as my book bracket for the header. And then at the very bottom, I'm also going to be adding a washi tape by Cora Creek Crafts on Etsy. Love this washi tape. It is a little bit finicky to unroll because it is kind of cut really low in some spots, so it can rip easily. But as long as you just take a couple extra seconds to unroll it, the finished result is so pretty. Next, I'm showing you the Places I've Seen spread, which is a map of all the places that I visited while reading. I did not film myself making this spread because I had no idea what I was doing the whole time. I was just winging it and doodling. I pre-filled a couple of places. For instance, I did put Bilbo's house in the Shire from The Hobbit. I did not read that this year, but I wanted to put there because it is from a book I've read. And I marked the whole map as fairy because there are so many books that I read that take place in fairy. Next, we are going to my series tracker. This one is a very handy tracker for me, but I did not make this big enough. And about halfway through this journal, I ended up having to add a tip in for this. I will say I don't usually pre-fill series trackers like this, where I put down the highlight and then I put the boxes underneath. However, I sketched everything out in pencil first, so I knew how much room I had between each one, which was very helpful. But basically, I will just be putting a little bullet point next to each title under the series, and then when I read that title, I will fill it in. I know some people will just put like a row of bullets and then they can cross them off and they don't put the titles, but I find it a lot easier to keep track of, and it makes more sense to me whenever I also put down the title. So I did go, it was a little more effort, but like to me it was worth it. So I used the Tombow dual brush pen in N75 for my highlights, and then my Sharpie black felt tip pen to write the title of each series and the author. Underneath that, I made my bullet points and then wrote the titles of each book in with my Sakura Black Pigma Micron pen in 01, just for slightly smaller writing. Again, I prefer to do that for slightly smaller writing. I think it just really comes in handy. But here you can see I'm just filling in. This is kind of what it will look like, having all of the books filled in for a series, but I left some space on the other side for it to grow. Obviously not enough space because I needed more. Now I'm going back in with my Kuretake Zig Coco Iro black brush pen to write the word series. I really like this pen for lettering. This is probably my favorite black brush pen for lettering. I really like the way it moves. And then I use my letter stamps again, and I just write the word trackers after that. Keeping this one pretty simple because I know that I will need a lot of space left open on the spread to fill up. So the only other decorations that I add are a couple of stickers down at the bottom, one from Leela Journals and one from the Grabie Moon Shop, just to kind of fill in some of that empty space that I won't end up using. I also make a little tag at the top so that I know what color brush pen I use as the highlight for each of the series titles. And then I add a Paperaicashop sticker and then a little Stickii Club sticker on top of it on the other page. Right now I'm working on making a bookmark. This is kind of just like a little side project that I had an idea to do, so I kind of just stopped in the middle and did this. I have a list of things that I like to reference. Whenever I'm making my monthly wrap-up spreads, I like to make pie charts. And so this is a list of things that I can, like subjects for the pie charts kind of. So if I want to make a pie chart about what genres I read or what year the books were published, that kind of thing. I have a whole list of things that I can make pie charts about here, and I have plenty of room to add to it if I think of more ideas. And then that way I can just kind of pull it out when I'm doing my monthly wrap-up page, and I can kind of look at that and get ideas of what I want the pie charts to be about that month, because I do not have the same subject of pie charts every single month. Often I will have the same thing, but it's not always definitely dedicated to the same prompts. Now we are working on the right page, which is my annual reading recap. And I am going in first with my black Tombow pen just to make a little section to fill out for each section. So I want to write down my favorite character, couple, side character, villain/antagonist, series, ending, plot twist, new to me author, cover, and world from books I've read that year. And so I'm just filling out the little prompts next to that. Afterward, I'm going in with a gray dual brush pen at the bottom to kind of have a different segment where I'm going to write my favorite month, my most read author, the number of 10-star reads, and the number of DNFs. I also separate them with like a little pen line just to show that it is like a little bit of a separate section. Although all of the prompts kind of go together, it is a little bit of a separate section in my reading recap. So we're just finishing up filling in that whole section there and making that line. And then we got to move over to the decor and header. I'm using that same gray dual brush pen to write annual, and then I get my letter stamps out and write reading recap. There's a little gap between them. I do end up putting a candle sticker in that little gap, but I don't know if I actually show footage of that. I have also a really good washi tape that I've been using for these spreads. I think I got it on Temu like a long time ago, but it's really been good for this. And then I put a Creepy Moonshop sticker on a piece of white sticker paper so that it wasn't see-through, and put that down as well as decor. On my quote spread, I actually ended up making one and not liking it at all and redoing it. So the stickers are from Stickii Club and Reim Clouds. And then the quote in the middle says, "Reading is my safest place and my wildest adventure." And then I just left plenty of room that I can fill in a bunch of quotes. I put down a Creepy Moonshop sticker and then made a little frame around the whole page and finished up with a sticker by Abigail M. Arts on Etsy. I really like her stickers as well. So then I can have I don't need a lot of room for all the quotes, but I do want to have some space so that I can show. So if there's something really special that I really loved, I can keep it and I can look back at it. So we're just going back through a little bit. On the cute nickname spread, I ended up adding another Mushie Works sticker. I'm just making little tweaks here. I'm making the frame a little bit more connected on my 10-star spread, and then we are going back to my cover page. I made my entire cover page out of gouache. You will have seen that in part 1. And one thing that I didn't love about my cover page was that it was very dark. So I'm actually going in with a lighter shade of green and just making some lighter shade of green leaves. And also more leaves, so it's not so sparse, and then it has a little bit of brightness to it. I didn't necessarily need it to be bright and cheerful. It's not going to be that. That's not the intention here. But I didn't want it to be too overwhelmingly dark. Also, you'll get to see the back of my head plenty because I was using a little brush and I needed to see what I was doing. Overall, I'm really happy with how this cover page turned out. There are definitely things that I wish were different or that I learned from it for next time. But I'm not going to use my cover page as an opportunity to criticize myself when it's a hobby and I'm having a good time and I'm here to learn. So I think my cover page turned out very nice, and here is my final flip through of my setup spreads. We have my name page and then my cover page, and I did all of this with gouache, including the lettering, which was new for me. Here is my book log that looks like 2 little bookshelves, and then I also have my bookmark there. We have my rating system and my TBR lists. Also, when I filmed this flip through, I had already started to occupy the journal, so you'll see a little bit how it looks filled out. My DNF graveyard and upcoming releases spread are followed by my 10 stars spread, which, I'll be honest with you, I left too much room. I don't rate that many things 10 stars, so I'll make it smaller for next year. My book bingo and genres tracker, and then This Book Made Me, followed by my how many books I read in the year bar graph. My A to Z reading challenge I think turned out really cute, and I've really been enjoying it, but not as much as my romance tropes tracker, which I love. I will be trying a different format for 2026 though. My cute nicknames and obsessed spreads are followed by my Jessie Corn reading challenge spread, and this is how it looks backfilled. And then we go into my book bracket. You can see what I mean, where I've had to kind of trim down those book covers a little bit, but I still think it looks pretty cute. This is my places I've seen spread with my little map on it. I am overall pretty happy with how that turned out. And my series tracker spread, already almost completely full after like less than a month of using it. My quote spread is followed by my annual reading recap spread, and this is how all of them turned out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.